Hey, welcome back to the Producer Joe Show. We are charging right ahead. We have some really great shows coming up in the near future. I just booked Dave Marcus. If that name doesn't mean anything to you, if you've watched any baseball, if you've listened to any baseball, you know who this is. Dave Marcus has been the engineer slash producer of Padres radio broadcasts since 1994. And for a nerd like me, it's really cool to get somebody like this. I've known him a few years. Super nice guy, very smart guy. Very excited to have him on the show. We're going to wait till after the baseball season, and hopefully that won't be for a very long time because hopefully the Padres will go deep. All right, well, this is part two of an earlier interview. This is Dave Peters, Booga. He is all knowing on NFL and definitely when it comes to the Chargers. I even wore my Chargers jersey today in honor of this guest. So this is part two. Like I said, now they're fully into the preseason, and Booga is going to talk about what their current state is. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Please share. This is a lot of fun, and we have a lot of great shows on the way. All right, here we go. Dave.
Yo, what's good,
What's up,
brother?
brother?
Thanks for
Good to
having me
see
on.
you. Good to see you.
You as well.
Wow, that was a long intro. I didn't mean to ramble that long.
I can't help it. I ramble all the time. Let it go.
So before we get going here, I wanted to point out something on a personal note. My daughter went to Comic-Con a couple weeks ago, and so this will soon be featured up behind me. It's a illustration of Pee Wee's Playhouse. So
Oh, let's go.
for anybody out there who is a Pee Wee Herman fan, this is really sick. It's kind of like a record album, but it's really cool. And I just wanted to give her a shout out. I'm really happy to have that on there. So that'll supplant something. I'm not sure what, but all right. Well, hey man, how you liking the preseason so far?
Well, I'd like it better if the Chargers would score a touchdown. I'd like it better
That would help.
hearing about all the injuries on both sides of the ball and special teams. But that being said, there are some positives, and we'll get into that here.
Well, I know that last time you were on, we talked about Joe Alt. Why don't you tell me about how he's coming along?
I'm really glad that we are talking about Alt. You know, when you use the fifth overall pick in the first round on an offensive tackle that's moving from his natural left tackle position to right tackle, you know, there are a lot of concerns with doing that. It's like doing everything with your opposite hand when you switch sides, especially as an NFL tackle where you've been protecting the blind side of the quarterback forever, and now you're on the opposite side. When you use a pick as early as 5 on a tackle, you really want that to translate as soon as possible and be able to aid the team right away if you can. And though there were some concerns about him switching sides, he's performed masterfully so far. To watch a man that is 6'9" be lower and have better leverage than his O-line counterparts who are 6 to 7 inches shorter than him, some of them are. It's really fascinating. His athleticism for a guy that size, you just don't expect someone who's 6'9", over 320 pounds to be able to move the way that he does. Even though he has really long arms, a lot of times when you have guys whose arms are super long like that, you worry about a non-aggressive punch or a punch that is either late or they kind of rely too much on the full extent of their arms being stretched out. He still has a really solid punch, and that's something you want to look for, especially in a right tackle. A lot of times the right tackle's on what will be the strong side of the formation. You'll be lined up next to a tight end. There's a lot of responsibility there. Just because Joe Alt's playing right tackle, it doesn't mean he's not, one of the most important players on the entire team. And so far, in the little bit of limited action we've seen him in, he's performed great. Chargers fans should be really excited about his future. And I expect him to be literally an all-pro within the next 2 to 3 years, maybe 2 years at max. I mean, he's a special player. Joe Ortiz, the general manager of the Chargers, got this one right.
Well, you mentioned the conditioning and all that. He actually comes from football lineage, does he not?
Oh, yeah. His father, Joe Alt, played for the Chiefs back in the day. So he definitely has that ingrained in him, and he has the the nice luxury of being able to talk to his dad and learn about the NFL and the ins and outs, how to carry yourself as a man in the locker room, outside the locker room. You know, he has the pedigree that you would want. And his father was no slouch either. I mean, he's a
No.
big boy, not 6'9", but he was a stud too. So he comes from a great lineage, a phenomenal athlete. He's a very smart guy, which is one of the things that's really going to benefit him during this move from left tackle to right tackle. And Chargers fans should be ecstatic that he's here. I mean, a lot of us wanted a wide receiver instead of Joe Alt at pick 5. And the more I look
Especially
back,
with all the receivers we lost.
well, and that's just it. It seemed like the best way to fix the fact that you lose receivers, great receivers in Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, is to add other receivers. And of course they've done that. They picked up DJ Chark in free agency. They traded up in the second round to draft Ladd McConkey, but make no bones about it, even though that they didn't replace Keenan and Mike Dubb with players of their caliber, getting a Joe Alt at 5, I think he'll be an even better pick than the player that a lot of fans wanted the Chargers to take in Malik Neighbors. Malik, though he's flashed a little bit, he's also shown he's got a little bit of an attitude that could down the road be a problem. I don't expect it to be, but it's something to keep an eye on. Joe Alt, squeaky clean, on and off the field, and everyone should be really excited.
Well, let's talk about this amazing quarterback situation, shall we?
Yeah, you know, coming into the season, you have Justin Herbert on the roster. You feel great until you realize, you know, he's been banged up a little in recent years. Last season, he played through a torn labrum and rib cartilage injury and this and that and a broken finger on both hands at different times. I mean, the guy's a warrior and he'll play through it. Well, you come into this season and unfortunately, after a really rigorous day of training camp against the Los Angeles Rams, we find out that Herbert is suffering from plantar fasciitis. And for those of you who don't know what that is, it is a super injury. It's the one that hampered Antonio Gates for a good 4 seasons during his tenure with the Chargers and in the NFL. So it's something that can really plague you and stick around for a while if it's not treated properly and it's not handled well. So with Herbert, who was in a walking boot, we'll get to that in a minute, the backups have to play. There are preseason games to play. You have to have guys in there who can run the offense. And unfortunately for the Chargers, despite bringing in Luis Perez, you know, famed USFL quarterback, he's bad. Easton Stick is worse. And Max Duggan is so bad, they cut him today. The Chargers backup quarterback room is absolutely terrible. And those guys just aren't NFL caliber quarterbacks. And it's one of the main reasons why the offense has yet to produce a touchdown in the preseason through 2 games. Regardless of whether or not Herbert stays healthy and kicks the plantar fasciitis thing, the Chargers are in desperate need of a capable signal caller, a capable backup who can come in the instances that Herbert is hurt or banged up, because it happens. This is the most physical professional sport out there when it comes to team sports, and you got to have all your guys, but when you don't, you need to have capable backups. And right now the Chargers backup quarterback situation is as bad as it's ever been, and that's saying a lot.
So I guess since Max Duggan was released, he can go back to Disney and make another movie, huh?
So I knew about that movie, but I didn't think anybody would get the reference.
You're damn right. I'm going to get that reference, man. I'm a nerd. Come on.
Well, nerds have great minds that think alike, because I really wanted to say something about that, but I didn't think anybody would get it. So well done, sir.
Yeah, I pulled one out there. So how many touchdowns do the Chargers have this year?
Well, that would be 0. And
Okay.
Though it's only 2 games and it's preseason games and very few players have started, or starters have started, excuse me, you know, you still want to see a little continuity. You still want to see the offense be able to move the ball and perhaps get in the damn end zone. It's been frustrating to say the least, but knowing it's the preseason, it's not time to overreact. But it is time to react. And I hope that Joe Ortiz just does just that and handles the backup quarterback position, because you've got to have somebody in there who can do it, whether it's Tyler Huntley, the former Pro Bowler from Baltimore, or it's Ryan Tannehill, who I'm less interested in signing, but he is so much better than either any of the options they have as reserve quarterbacks that he's even worth kicking the tires on. Touchdowns, sometimes they can be tough to come by in the preseason, but a single touchdown would definitely suit me for sure.
Well, maybe this will help.
I know. So that's where I was about to go about Herbert. Started a segue to it earlier. He's no longer in the walking boot. He's out of it. And not only that, he was actually in pads today and practicing. Phenomenal news. We want to hear as much as we can and listen for as much as we can regarding any injury updates. But keep this in mind, Chargers fans, and everybody listening to this. Jim Harbaugh has already set the parameters for what he's going to be like regarding injuries. He's not going to tell us hardly anything. They're working through something. And to a degree, I understand that. You don't want to be giving intel to these opposing teams. That being said, as fans, we would love to be kept abreast of what's going on.
Sure.
We want to see them out there in the games that count. So, I'm no expert. I'm not a doctor. Should they have taken the boot off already? I don't know. But he's following the plans that are provided him by the training staff. And if this Ben Herbert training staff and these new doctors and everything are up to snuff, then this is a plan they should follow through with. Then I'm all on board with it, and Charger fans should be too.
I had that plantar fasciitis a couple of years ago, and maybe I am no NFL quarterback, but holy crap, it knocks you down, man. It really does.
Well, wiggling your toes can aggravate. I mean, there are so many just ridiculous, mundane things that can re-aggravate the injury. Stepping on your foot wrong. If you're wearing slides and it slips out, but you only step on part of it. I've thought about. I've had so many foot, knee, leg, and back issues. It's ridiculous. But I don't know that I've ever had plantar fasciitis. But when Antonio Gates was going through it during his heyday, it was something I studied as much as I can to try to figure out what was going on. His literally just would not go away. It just hung out. And unfortunately, that's a possibility with this injury. That being said, if there's any quarterback in the league who can play through it, it's Justin Herbert. Definitely one of the toughest players, regardless of position, in the entire NFL. And I don't know that he gets enough credit for that from outside people. But I sure as hell hope that Chargers fans are realizing the gem that they have in Herbert, and a guy who's literally willing to put his body through it just to get out there and get on the field. He would rather be out there than on the sideline. Don't ever mistake yourself for thinking otherwise.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said there. Absolutely. I'm a big fan of Justin Herbert. So we're talking about injuries. Do you have any other injuries you'd like to go through the roster on? Talk about the key injuries that are going on right now?
Yeah, I'm not going to bore everybody with the stuff that we all know. The one thing that's concerning me the most is second-round draft pick, whom they traded up for, Ladd McConkey out of Georgia. He was already an injury-prone player, and that's one of the reasons why he fell into the second round. Now it's the beginning of the second round, and the Chargers obviously really wanted him, or they wouldn't have moved up to trade for him. But him being in and out of the lineup and not in it right now, it's worrisome. He's not a big dude. He's very slight, quite frankly, and whether it's a lower body injury or any type of ailment, with these smaller guys, it's not that they're frail. They're not all built exactly the same. But it's so much easier to re-aggravate things, and you want to see him succeed. He's a phenomenal weapon will be a phenomenal weapon for Herbert when he can get out there. But with Herbert's injury and Ladd not on the field, you question the rapport that they're having built despite early success in OTAs and stuff. Like those aren't the games that count. Those are practices, and even the training camp dates against other teams, like they did against the Rams. That's all well and good. But those games don't count. They don't matter in the end. You just hope to come out of them healthy, see a little consistency, build a little continuity here and there, and kind of roll out. The Ladd McConkey thing worries me. Again, smaller player. They have big plans for him. You really want to see him come back. One of the other guys who is no longer injured and actually practicing now that I just want to bring up to people is third-round pick, middle linebacker Junior Colson. This defense was built around him. He knows it better than any other player. He knows it better than some of the coaches, quite frankly, because defensive coordinator Jesse Minter helped design this defense with a player like Junior Colson in mind. Now, I know he was designing defenses long before he had Junior Colson, and he did so at various other universities. But Colson being back, he's somebody who he makes a veteran like Denzel Perryman able to play more spot duty as opposed to start. Perriman's a phenomenal hitter. He is a run stuffer. He'll take your head off, but he's also very injury prone. And he's also a guy who really struggles in pass coverage. So he's not really a 3-down linebacker. Seeing Colson come back is something that's big. Earlier today, unfortunately, we heard that wide receiver DJ Chark, so another wideout, another weapon for Herbert, he's dealing with something where he got up off the field wincing in pain. And according to Daniel Popper of The Athletic, it looked like he was reaching for his hip flexor. Another tricky injury if it is something. So Chargers fans, keep your eyes out on what's going on with that. You know, check Daniel Popper's Twitter. He's one of the best beat writers in the entire NFL, maybe in all professional sports, if you ask me. Is he a little too pushy about injuries, and does he like to irritate coaches? Yes and yes. But that being said, I think he's great at his job, and I think everybody should embrace having somebody like that, because you're going to find out a lot more pertinent information with a guy like that. But other than that, you know, there aren't any real significant injuries right off the top of my head. But Ladd and Chark, two of the weapons, you know, that's concerning, and we're just going to have to wait to see what happens by the time week 1 rolls around.
Gotcha. Right on. Thank you. How's our secondary looking? I know you had your finger pointed on Dean Leonard, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, he's somebody who was drafted by the past regime by general manager Tom Telesco, and he's kind of, you know, he's flashed here and there, but in times when he was forced to start, you know, he had some really rough games for the Chargers last year. And he, again, showed some promise, but it was hard to see what direction he's going him. Fast forward to OTAs and minicamp, and he had a fantastic OTAs and minicamp, and he's also showing out in the preseason. He had a big interception in this last game against the Rams, you know, thwarting their opportunity to score. And he's had several pass breakups in this last game and the game before it. You always hope that players can find a way to develop into the best version of themselves, and it looks like Dean Leonard's taken all the necessary steps to do just that. And in a secondary that needs as much help as possible, it's great to see him stepping up the way that he has. Is he going to be capable enough to come in and start week 1? I don't see that. And, you know, but by the time we're at the midpoint of the season, I think we're going to have a guy in Dean Leonard who can come in and possibly start for multiple games if he continues to improve at the rate that he's improving. Other than that, I mean, you look at Derwin James and Alohi Gilman. Alohi Gilman might be one of the most slept on players in the NFL outside of Los Angeles. I don't know if too many people know the free safety's name. I'm not as high on him as a lot of people are, but he's a good player, a solid player. And what he does complements Derwin so well that it allows Derwin to do a lot more things and move around because you have a guy like Gilman in the back half. And additionally, in the secondary, Christian Bolton from the Titans. He's somebody that on this show and a lot of other shows, since he's been acquired, I was very concerned about that signing. He had a putrid 2023, and 2022 wasn't much better, quite honestly. But that being said, he's been flashing all camp. He's been picking off balls and getting PBUs, pass breakups. He's been in position to tackle well. Now, they haven't been full contact in these, but I'm just saying he's been in good position to do so. And that's half the battle. The other half is just the willingness to get it done. But I think that the secondary is going to shape up to maybe surprise a lot of people this year. Especially, you know, we had a lot of confidence in the back half with Derwin and Gilman, but these corners may even surprise me. And I'm kind of excited to see it all develop throughout the whole 2024 season.
I saw this come across your page today, so I grabbed it. Frank Ginda.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you get a defensive player of the year, whether it be from a semi-pro league or a professional league, it's worth kicking the tires on. What's the worst thing that happens? You cut him? I mean, he's not going to affect the salary cap at all until you sign him. It could be a solid addition. Big boy, not real fast. He's not a burner at all, but he'll hit you in the mouth. And physicality is, you know, Harbaugh's MO. He wants these guys, you know, on offense, we're going to run the ball and hit you in the mouth. On defense, we're going to hit you in the mouth. You catch the ball, hit you in the mouth. So the more guys that can do that, the better. The Frank Ginda signing, it was kind of sneaky. I wasn't prepared for that. But it's something that Charger fans should be excited about, knowing that with this GM, Joe Ortiz, they're making moves all August long. Tom Telesco was allergic to August moves. Ortiz has already proven. Now, they're not marquee names, but he's proven that, hey, we're going to constantly continue to try to upgrade this team, improve position groups, and make this team more formidable all year long. That should provide so much hope for the future for all Charger fans out there regarding this squad. It's just going to continue to get better. You're not always going to agree with him. I could sit here and harp on a lot of the signings, and there are things that he's done that I am not a fan of. Now, I am not the expert that Facebook Meta AI believes that I am. So my opinion doesn't go up there with people like Joe Ortiz. But that being said, keep the excitement levels up, but also be incredibly patient, Chargers fans.
I like it. Now, lastly, I know we're in preseason. I know. Give me your prognostication for this season, would you?
So last time we talked a little bit, and I had claimed it, right around 8 to 9 wins. Here's the deal, and everybody knows this. The entire league and all the Chargers fans, I hope, know this. Without Justin Herbert, this is going to be a very bad team and a very long, ugly, and an emphasis on the ugly year. Especially considering the backup quarterback position situation. That being said, if Herbert is healthy enough to get out there and play, the Chargers still could creep around that 8 or 9 win mark, but I just don't see them making the playoffs, much less making a run at the Super Bowl this year.
What?
I know the graphic. I tried to fall in line with the graphic, but I can't even lie to myself. It's a long year. It's going to be long. It's going to be ugly, but be excited. The Chargers have triple-digit millions in salary cap space next year. This team is going to look completely different again. I mean, if you just look at the rosters compared to just last year, I mean, it's completely different at so many spots, not just the wide receivers. I mean, it's everywhere. The running back room is literally completely different for the top three in Gus Edwards, Kamani Vidal, and J.K. Dobbins. I mean, those are your top 3 running backs right now. Although Jared Patterson's a bit of a sleeper. Keep an eye on him, Chargers fans. But I want to caution everybody out there. Be excited, but not with eyes towards the playoffs. Should they make the playoffs and get in there, then hell, I'm going to be rooting just as hard as I do for every preseason and regular season game as well. But, I just want to caution everybody that the mess that was left by former GM Tom Telesco and former head coach Brandon Staley, it's not a one-off season fix. It's not a one full season fix. When you get into next year and you can really get a lot of players and you're not in the salary cap hell that Joe Ortiz started with, you can really make some moves that can make this team a formidable opponent every Sunday in and Sunday out. And I think that's perfectly put. Cautiously optimistic, sure. But don't get so angry if they're, a 500 team or below, because that's most likely what's going to happen. Aim for the Super Bowl, just improve. I tried to go.
I think I got that one figured out now. Just having a little fun here. I mean, I've been hoping for the Padres to be World Series champions for 53 years now. So,
yeah,
who knows?
The young Charger fans out there who, that are in their 20s, but the learned ones, they're super, super fed up, and they've seen enough. The ones that know about football and know the game, they're I've got very close friends of mine who are younger than me talking about, I don't want to be 40 or 50 and dealing with a team that's mediocre and not won anything. And, I don't know if my friends realize this stuff, but I am in that wheelhouse. And, what have the Chargers really ever done for me as a fan? Now, they've done a lot for me as a media person, but, there's no Super Bowls. We don't have a lot of phenomenal moments. There have been great times here and there, but never reached the pinnacle other than getting to a Super Bowl against one of the greatest NFL teams I've ever seen in that 49er team back in 94. I mean, it was ridiculous. So my hope is to be rewarded, and I don't want to be sitting here at 70 years old. I mean, this is going to get serious for a second, but my father, his dying wish, literally, and for the last 15, 20 years of his life, all he wanted to do was see the Chargers win a Super Bowl. I may die in a gruesome death like my father did, rotting from the inside out. That being said, I don't want the non-Super Bowl outcome to be a part of my legacy. I really want to see it happen, and I have a lot of hope for that with this new regime. Now, is it guaranteed to happen? No. But when you bring in somebody like Jim Harbaugh, who's won everywhere, including the University of San Diego, that Super Bowl graphic is a possibility, just not this year.
Oh. That was good timing. Um,
Yeah.
well, all right, buddy. I think that's it. And this is not your last time on the show, by the way. Please, we need to keep making this happen. You are a wealth of information, and I love having you on here. Promise me you will be back.
Man, I'm gonna beg you back if you don't have me, or beg to be back if you don't have me back. I look forward to doing this all season and for seasons to come. Joe, you're one of my favorite people. For those of you out there who don't know, my very first time doing a radio show, I was actually live on Mountain Country 107.9 in Alpine, and it was just me, a mic, and about an hour and a half worth of notes. And Joe was in studio for this. And I went through that hour and a half worth of notes in about 3 minutes. I was nervous. I dumped in my drawers about 5 times, and my father, of all people, was in the studio with us. It was a very, very special and horrific moment for me. And you and I have never really talked about that, but Joe's been there with me. I started being official, and he still keeps having me back. So I'm going to kick down the door if you don't invite me in, and we're going to keep doing this. We're going to provide phenomenal coverage. Guys, please, if you're listening, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube, and keep getting prominent information from myself and producer Joe. I don't know if there's any better place to get it, quite honestly, other than from the horse's mouth, right from the Chargers. So we're very happy to play second fiddle to the actual organization that we love.
All right, brother. Well, thanks for coming on. I appreciate that. I appreciate the kind words. I really do.
You know, we all need to hear. We need to be saying those things more so that we all get to hear them more. Just one quick shout out to my boy Thomas Powell, who's in the hospital again. Keep fighting, dude. There are very few people who fight like you. I don't know if I've ever met anybody tougher. I love you. Keep fighting, brother. Joe, thank you so much for having me on. Peace out, brother. We'll do this again soon.
All right, brother. Thank you. All right.
Later, buddy.
And for the rest of everyone else, we will be back here in a week or so, and I will let you know who that is. I'm dialing in the details right now. Other than that, thank you so much for joining the Producer Joe Show. Please subscribe and see you soon.